This is Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action, and you're listening to the Krypton Report.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird!
It's a plane! It's the Krypton Report!
Welcome to the Krypton Report podcast, presented by the Southgate Media Group.
The All Things Kryptonian podcast, including Superman and Supergirl.
We discuss games, movies, cartoons, TV shows, and comics.
Krypton Report Pod can be found on Facebook, Twitter, Skype, YouTube, and Instagram.
And if you want to drop us a line, send it to kryptonreportpod@gmail.com.
We are on Patreon under Southgate Media Group.
And our official merch page is tpublic.com. Search Krypton Report.
Now on with the show.
All right, we are back, James. How you been, man?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. Can't complain too much.
Solomon. Hey, Solomon. Want to say something?
Hi, James.
Hey, Solo. How you doing, buddy?
Good.
All right.
Solomon is currently watching the death of Superman behind me at the TV in the adjacent room because he's my son and he's awesome, and for some reason he likes Doomsday a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to be putting that in here real soon. Next few days, watch the death and reign of Superman.
Yeah,
and
I'm in the mood to watch Reign again. So, Death is just like we talked about once before. Death, I think, is my favorite Superman movie. Like some people like blasphemy, but there's a lot of emotion, a lot of power in that animated film, and not a lot of controversy.
Right.
So yeah, we've kind of been off for a little while. Partially due to life, work. You and I had worked on trying to do these episodes, so we do 2 at a time. And I was traveling for a while, and then, so here we are.
And, life's damn responsibilities.
Yeah, those responsibilities. Like, why don't they make way so I can do my free podcast here?
Yep.
And I can talk with
adulting. It's the worst. It's the worst. It's like the biggest lie ever. I want to grow up. No, you don't.
And the immortal words of a great character whose death was not praised enough is a trap.
Yep, it is.
So, but here we go. We're going to start Supergirl Season 4, Episode 18, Crime and Punishment. All right, let me just make a note here. I'm just watching my counter. Crime and Punishment. All right, so you and I had talked a little bit before. I feel like the whole Supergirl and the President thing would have been kind of a cool story arc if they had waited till after Crisis and done kind of a Supergirl Batwoman Public Enemies.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's touched on in this season, but it could have been a really cool, like, multi-episode arc of just, like, different heroes and different superpowered people, like, hunting down Supergirl and Batwoman.
Right. Yeah, heroes and villains.
And we get, in the episode, we get one of my favorite things is when the guy, like, Supergirl's trying to help that dude who's in a car crash, and the guy pulls a gun and, like, shoots at her. Like, visually, it's one of those things that we love seeing, but seriously, like, you're just going to keep shooting her like a bullet. That's what's going to stop Supergirl.
Right. Yeah. You think, I don't know. You never know what goes through the mind of some people, but the fact that Superman and Supergirl are like these huge and widely known superheroes that are indestructible, that have taken missiles and like alien blasters and all this, and have walked away with nothing, with not even a scratch, and that bullets like literally bounce off of them, and they can catch bullets with their bare hands. Like, why is it even a thing to try that, just to put innocent lives at risk?
And that's why it's my favorite part in Supergirl season 2 when Superman shows up, and Superman says, I never understood the punching, like after the bullet, like I never understood. I mean, it's just like in Superman Returns. I mean, one of the coolest shots is that quite doesn't make sense of how they would have that much time to build that big of a machine gun when robbing a bank. But when they have that giant machine gun and they're shooting down at the cops, and Superman comes flying in, and the bullets are just bouncing off his chest, and the guy, runs out of bullets and just pulls out his gun and shoots him in the eye. Visually, amazing. Practical does not make sense. So,
yeah, I mean, I suppose if you wanted to think that maybe Superman would be vulnerable to a bullet like straight in the eye, I mean, it is a weak point, but it's for people, it's for humans. So,
try to see it better than us, James, just because we're human.
Hey, I'm human too.
Don't
My identity is secret.
Don't tell the listeners that. They don't need to know. But no, like this episode, so Lena and Kara decide they're going to try to go find out more about Lex, and they're going to go to his cell. So, what did you think of? What you just think of this episode as a whole? Like, I know, like it's been a while. We've are kind of like getting backwards into it. So.
I mean, I thought the episode for the most part was pretty good. The Lena and Kara stuff, the Lena and Supergirl stuff at the prison, the public turning against Supergirl, like even the inmates at the prison, they were against Supergirl. I mean, not like she'd be buddy with the inmates at the prison. She'd probably put a number of them away in there, but the fact that they were calling her a traitor, and she's dealing with a lot of public scrutiny, and she has to hide. She has to hide who she is, but she does it's really good because no matter what the circumstance is, there's the public, citizens putting innocent people in harm's way, and even the military coming after her, who could still do nothing to her, but inmates aren't going to stop fighting when they come in, basically. So they're just, they plan on killing the inmates and just taking out anybody caught in the crossfire. And, she took it to save everybody.
Yeah.
She took it upon herself to save everybody.
One thing I really liked this episode, so with Lena and Kara, okay, being inside the prison, okay, is interesting because people don't want to talk to Supergirl, but they would talk to Kara. And we found out the person whose cell was across from Lex actually was willing to talk to Kara because he liked an article she had written. And I find that quite fascinating, honestly. Just like how the duality of Kara and her two lives are starting to kind of catch up, to where she can be as effective as Kara as she can as Supergirl.
Yeah, which was really cool how the how the episode ended with her leaning on the strength of both of her identities, going back she can't do as much at this point as Supergirl. So she uses the strength of being Kara Danvers, the journalist, to help further the heroic agenda.
Mm-hmm. And who do we get to see is still alive in this episode? Who comes back for this episode?
You talking about Otis?
Oh yeah, I'm talking about Otis, the new Metallo.
Yeah, pretty cool fight scene. The one thing I don't quite get is the kryptonite shield. All it does is cover the S.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose if all it is, if it's, because I'm not sure. I know we've seen something like it this earlier in the season, but I thought it was mostly because of the suit. I thought it was I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've watched any of the earlier episodes of the season, but I thought the thing was the suit, not just the little shield.
Yeah, I thought the little
maybe it's
shield was like the power, like where it focused.
Right.
That goes back to season 2 when Superman showed up and they had like the multiple versions of like a Metallo figure. And even then it was one of those where I'm just like, I just don't get behind it. You know, it doesn't quite make sense for me.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I can even headcanon fathom some kind of proprietary like radiation absorption device where it absorbs the radiation from the kryptonite as opposed to it affecting her.
Mm-hmm.
But then, the constant blasts and bombardment, it was breaking the device. So I don't know. It's the only way to make it make sense, I suppose. But it was a pretty cool fight scene between them fighting throughout the prison. Using, I liked when they went to the weight room and were hitting each other with weights.
It was epic. It made me think of it.
Yeah. One thing I did like though is how all of the prisoners, no matter how many of them there are, that they would be ballsy enough to think that they could overpower her when like she could catch a plane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I was just like, I mean, it's not like there's kryptonite. I'm just like, who do these guys think they are? Like,
yeah, like this, that's like the strength of 1,000 men, like maybe even more, 5,000. You know what I mean? There's not even that many people in the prison, but they go after her. And one of the creative things I liked was when she ripped off one of the cell doors and used her heat vision to lock them in that section of the hallway.
Oh, you know me. I love me some heat vision. So yes, that was awesome. But I don't know. It just, I don't know. It just was one of those things I'm just like, nobody here is thinking at all. And then, so over at the DEO side of things, Alex gets one of the lines that I hate more than anything in any kind of military type setting is when they say we have our orders, or orders are orders, and I just cannot blindly follow somebody if I think what they say is wrong.
Yeah. This is the episode where they use the signal watch where Lockwood is trying to use the signal watch to draw Supergirl into a trap at the DEO.
Yep, Secretary Lockwood.
Yep.
Miss Gavin orders about how to summon Supergirl. And
Like, he is getting worse and worse.
it's like he's almost wanting to turn into Doomsday.
Oh, that would be bad.
It'd be awesome.
It would be.
I hope somebody like edits some footage on here, because that would be awesome.
Lockwood freaking out and then transforming into Doomsday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Everybody's like, what are you guys talking about? Smallville.
Right. Go way back.
I could just see Sam like, yes. And they're like, hey Sam, we're gonna put you back on a superhero show. Oh, okay, cool.
Right. Well, man, he's a character actor, and these superhero, sci-fi, horror shows, they're in his wheelhouse, man. He thrives on them. They do him well.
I mean,
he does them well.
He was Star Killer, but I mean, all in all, this episode was good. There wasn't a whole lot that jumped out to me. I liked the Kara and Alex moving together. I really like seeing them like just working together. Like we don't ever get to see, it seems like, anymore of, or not Alex, dang it, Lena, like just Kara and Lena.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice so far now, up to at this point now, that they are, they're working together. They're understanding each other. Lena is telling Supergirl about a lot of her and Lex's secrets from when they were kids. And that's how she is able to find evidence of what he's been doing and where he's been going, and or at least trying to track him, to try and figure that stuff out. She finds his journals in the chessboard. She uses his mural on the wall and discovers his secret lab, which his neighbor in the prison he's actually a tech type guy, and he's in prison for outing the government spying on people, and that's why he's in prison. So he copies Lex's. So we got Colonel Haley at the DEO this episode, and
she's a character I find interesting, because like there are times I'm like, I really like this character, and there are times like I really hate this character.
Yeah, well, she was definitely the hard nosed, by the book military leader in the early part of the season. She did her job. She was strict about it. She didn't take crap. We didn't like her before. Like, she tried to use Supergirl's identity to control her.
Mm-hmm. And
so she was a bad person. But kind of seems that, the influence of Supergirl and Alec, the people at the DEO, has rubbed off on her, and the fact that the government that she's worked for, especially in the last couple of episodes, she can really see the cracks coming from the corruption in the system, and seems like she doesn't believe in blindly following these orders anymore.
And that's, like I said, that's always a problem I have. That's why I could never be in the military. Like my dad, I can't just follow orders. That's part of it. I'm like, I know, Dad. That's why I can't do it. Like, I have to think too independently on my own. So.
Yeah. So, yeah, we've got a number of people. James is dealing. So a couple other people in this episode. James is dealing with his trauma. He goes to see a therapist to deal with his PTSD symptoms that he's having. Is this the episode? I'm trying to see here real quick in my notes. Is this the episode where his powers manifested?
They start to. I know that.
Okay. Okay, I gotta look and see if it's in my next one. If he's okay, so yeah, in this episode, he's dealing. Yeah, in this episode, he's dealing with the symptoms of what he believes to be PTSD symptoms, extra senses, things like that. And then later on in the episode, he has like a flare up, and he crushes a lamp. And he's manifesting superpowers. He crushes a lamp. He has like super strength. He can see through things from very far away.
Interesting. These powers remind me of a certain something.
Yeah. Well, as we move on to the next episode, you'll get even bigger clues as to what they might be. And then, so that's what's going on with James. You know, he talks with his sister about it a little bit. And then the only other two people here is Brainy and Dreamer.
What do you think about Brainy? Like this season, let's just, we're not completely done with this season, but just
for the most part, I mean, as a whole, like he has some as a whole, he has some moments. He's hit or miss, sometimes he's just there for exposition purposes and to fill a logical tech type person, develop. So he's since the beginning of the season where completely analytical, but hints with people, with cars, with Nia Null, and with James. They've all helped to shape him into a little bit more emotional, not so logical and analytical. So, he's had a little bit of a journey. It's just sometimes he's hit or miss, but when he's doing good, he does. He gets some good laughs, and other times it's just like, that's meant to be funny, but okay.
All right.
So, but in this episode, I think he did his interaction with Nia was pretty good. Trying to figure out if he was supposed to, he wanted her to tell him if he should use her powers to tell him if he should delete the alien registry, because Secretary Lockwood coming in, he would use the registry to hunt and attack aliens.
Any aliens, not just the ones that have committed crimes. And I think it's really interesting, just the whole thought of something that was derived and created to keep them safe and protected is now using them against them. So I don't know. I just find it interesting. So I mean, that, like I said, this episode was good. I liked it. I felt like it was, I don't know, not a setup, but it was not filler, but it was really good. Just moving certain beats along and helping us pad out to get to our next chapter.
Yeah, it was definitely a step in the right direction for the overall plot of the season. Early on, it kind of seemed a little back and forth. There was some filler early in the first half of the season, but But getting further into this season, you can kind of see where threads stretch back all the way to the beginning of the season. So, things are starting to come together.
All right. What would you rate this episode?
Being a step in the right direction of moving the overall plot, everybody had something to do, decent amount to do. I would give this an episode about a 7.5.
All right. I'll give it a 7. I think it's more of a character-driven episode. It just has more beats of just
just being Supergirl and flying in and punching and saving the day.
It's her journey, she has to prove. But we're going to take a...
Well, it was in the last season where... It's the last season, right? Season 3 where she... Yeah, because it was after... it was after Mon-El left when she leaned into being all Supergirl.
Mm-hmm. I think they should have done that a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I think
right. And they kind of gave her back the dual identities moving forward. She wasn't all Supergirl. She was Kara and she was Supergirl. But now, later in this season, but now they're giving her other leg to stand on, and she's actually embracing her journalist side. That her journalist side can be powerful and influential as her hero side, as her cape side.
And sometimes I think that's fun to play with in characters. I really would like to see more, of just how Clark really affects everything, and how Kara does things more of just their alter egos. All right, we're going to move on to the next episode, which is American Dreamer. We'll be right back. Solomon is calling.
Ready to start Rain now?
No, he actually picked out he wants to watch Batman versus Robin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have all my animated movies down here in the basement, and we have the old PS3 and a TV down here for when we do our recordings for watching movies. So when he comes down, sometimes this is where I keep all my DC stuff. So my Smallville, my Lois and Clark, Super.
Right.
So, and then all the DC animated stuff's down here. But, all right, you ready?
Yep.
Let's get this crack-a-lackin'. All right, Supergirl, Season 4, Episode 19, American Dreamer. That's kind of cool. I think we've done a really cool job this season with names of episodes a little bit more, they've had a little bit more fun, like Parasite Lost, Man of Steel, American Dreamer.
The deceptive title of Man of Steel.
They got us, but it made a lot of sense.
It did. In the context of the episode, it did.
You're like, you got me, Supergirl. You got me. Well played. Well played. But no, American Dreamer. Now, one thing that I've had a little bit of problems with the Dreamer character is the fact that her name is Dreamer. It seems like now that she has her suit and found her powers, she doesn't do any dreaming. And, what do you call it? My wife was watching, she missed 2 episodes and was catching up with me. And she was like, wait, she has powers? What is she shooting? Where did she learn? I'm like, yeah, exactly. Training montage, and all of a sudden she is a warrior. And I'm just like, okay. Like I'm like I can't really get behind some of this because I'm sorry, like you don't spend your whole life not knowing how to use your powers, then really quickly be a master of them.
Yeah. Yeah, she did get away from the dreaming aspect quite a bit over the last couple episodes, but she did have a random dream of Brainy in the last episode, but kind of here or there. But all her training, came from Brainy behind the camera, so she does a lot of study off screen. So, I mean, what are you going to do when they advance her powers off screen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to hate. It's just one of those things. It's just like, oh, we don't want to take the time to really like work on this, and
right.
we just need another character quick. All right, just give Dreamer all the powers that she needs.
Yeah, well, it makes me wonder if like her mom like knew the extent of the abilities that they have, or if over generations they've just kind of gone more towards the dream interpretation route and less of the physical, less of the fighting and saving the day type of thing.
All right, I'll give it to you, man. Look at James here, everybody. Mr. Like, I got this rational stuff because and that's usually how I figure it out. It's like I got to figure out something because I can't take it when I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to do here. But James is on the ball with it right now, and I can get behind that. You know what I'm saying? I can really get behind that. I just honestly, I get kind of tired sometimes of just like lazy. I feel like it's lazy writing and storytelling. I just want to speed it up and be done with it. Like, oh, all right, and now she's fully fledged dreamer.
Yeah,
and this is her episode.
Yeah, and that's one thing. That's one thing that gets you frustrated when shows like this have 22 episodes. They have so much time and so much room to explore things, explore characters, develop characters, tell a story. And they use that time for filler and, half meaningless drama.
Yeah. And half meaningless drama, half a
like not all of it's not all of it's meaningless, but it's CW. We all know that the CW is half meaningless drama.
Yeah. I mean, and let's not forget abandoning plot threads. I mean, I'm still kind of in shock that we're done with Manchester Black and the Elite. I felt like that was just like it was a sidestep how they got rid of him, and it felt like a fake out. And then I guess that's actually really how they got rid of Manchester Black. Like, I just feel so cheated, like with the Elite. It's like these threads that could be longer story arcs get shortened down, and then we have the time, but we don't take the time. And I don't know. It's just, I think there's certain things that would be really nice if they would just take a little bit more time to really help us grasp. So,
right.
But anyways, back.
Well, speaking of Manchester, I just hope that he's not like, unfortunately, I hope that maybe next season, like there's a possibility for a return or something, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like right now, I'm very, very cheated.
He was, cheated. Yeah.
Now,
Manchester is a pretty awesome character, and he was. I mean, granted, he was badass in the season. He was awesome. What they did with him, but they stunted him. Like he could have been that plus.
And the fact that, like we talked about, the whole introduction of the Heron L and like the idea, like, oh, okay, they're going to give people powers. So this is how Manchester gets his psychic, and we get like the Manchester that we all know and fear or love, you know. And no, that kind of went by the wayside as well. So we just got angry bloke at the world. But now on to more fun things in this episode. My favorite thing in this episode was when they had the hunt for Supergirl on the news, and the photo that they showed of Supergirl was the costume release promotional photo that the CW released years ago.
Was it really?
Where it's her standing there, and for the longest time, the CW first look photos of like the character, their costumes are horrible. Just go back and Google Supergirl like costume reveal first photo, and it's like her, and it looks really weird. It's dark. She's in like a black background. The first photo of Grant Gustin in the Flash costume was horrible.
Yeah, it was.
And then, you know, we've had certain ones that have been okay, hit and miss. Like the Rain one was not that great.
Honestly, the first one that was any good was Batwoman. Yeah. It definitely looked better in action on the show than it did in promo still.
Well, like the first, I'm looking at the image right now because I have a poster of it on my wall of Tyler Hoechlin when they first, it kind of looked like he just kind of walked in on the set to do a costume test, and they took a photo and was like, "Oh, that'll be cool. We'll show that to everybody."
Yeah,
kind of like, you know how that scene in BVS where the Flash is in the grocery store, the convenience store, and he stops the robber, and it doesn't even really look like Ezra Miller. Like, he looks really goofy.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like that. And then the next time we see, you know, Ezra Miller Flash is in Suicide Squad and he's in a costume, but then we see him in Justice League and it really does look like a different person.
Well, he's got his little peach fuzz shaved off of his face and his hair chopped down.
Yeah, it's like he looks like the character, and he got more in shape for it, and it's just an example of how I feel about some of these photos. Is like they look like a test screening or something that they just decide to release for us for our enjoyment. So.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, as we know from BVS, like it was shoehorned in there, you know, like most people should know at this point, it was basically mandated that the second movie moving forward was going to be this huge world building movie that, you know, tried to catch up to Marvel after they'd done 16 films and they were trying to catch them in 4.
I don't even want to say catch Marvel, because, you know, when Zack Snyder's come out and, you know, he talked about his arc that he had in his 5-movie arc Superman thing. I don't want to say he was playing catch up as well as he was doing world building, but at the same time, I feel like they kind of sabotaged themselves when he had the joke conversation about what should we do for the sequel, and he said, "Oh, we should just do Batman." And he said, like, he had the idea of Kryptonite showing up at Batman's house, and he said, like, once you say it out loud and you start thinking about it, you want to make it real. Because I mean, the thing people don't realize is how far in the planning of BVS they were in when Man of Steel came out. Because when you go back and look at the fact that Man of Steel was basically done in December of 12. It was supposed to be out in December of 12. but they pushed it back to 13, the summer of 13.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were done with it. So they were already prepping the sequel, and that's why in post, like, they added the logo on the
satellite
and everything. Is, they were already planning and starting prep and production and working on actually crafting the Batmobile. There's a great featurette about the creation of the Batmobile. It shows the timeline.
Right. Now we would, as we're not Zack Snyder and we're not, WB execs, we won't know like what the exact story of everything that had went down or the progression or the studio meddling hands, things like that. But if Snyder had, say, his 5-movie arc, and things went according to his so-called plan that he said was going to happen, at least with like the first 4 movies or so before he even got to the finale, like, it was made for comic book fans and a lot of people who were familiar with the characters and wouldn't need, say, your individual solo films to build them up and bring them together. They would exist in the world, and they would just meet each other, and it would just grow. You know what I mean? Kind of naturally, as opposed to plant one seed after another, and then they all come together. They all sprout up at the same time. So, but and it seems like there was like a definitive end point as well. But when like, say, the MCU has been running and growing and getting larger, obviously Warner Brothers, the company that wants to continue producing movies on an indefinite basis, gets their hands involved. They're going to want to make the world grow, and obviously they want the general public, not just comic book fans, to be interested. So they're going to change things and make it to what they think the general public wants to see.
Yep.
And that's where we get things that were probably forced into BVS and the changes to Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah.
And then obviously, the Frankenstein that is Justice League.
But we'll talk about this forever. But let's get back to Dreamer, because that's really who this show's all about.
Yeah, we kind of went way off topic there.
American Dreamer podcast brought to you by the American Dreamer. We do get a cool flashback of Jimmy about his father's funeral, and I find that was like the biggest heart of the episode, about what happened, about how he was attacked and bullied and ended up missing his father's funeral, and his sister didn't realize it and thought he had just abandoned her. I thought that was pretty heavy stuff, but really cool at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
We do get an image of Jimmy at the Daily Planet, so that was cool. Just expanding more of James's world.
Yeah, during his events in the Mind Palace, he exhibits other powers like heat vision, and he ends up flying at one point.
All those powers sound like a certain somebody. It's kind of sad, because this would be like a perfect time for his best friend to show back up and, be like, dude, bro. He'd be like, bro.
Powers derived from a certain Kryptonian substance.
Man, it's like he's getting powers of, I don't know, a Kryptonian.
Yeah. It's interesting though the way they do it, because the supposed trigger to his PTSD symptoms that the Harnell was basically exacerbating. They believed it to be Lex and all of his traumatic events that he's had encountering Lex over the years, ending with Lex being responsible for him being shot in the back.
Yeah, because at first he wasn't as freaked out about it, and then when he found out it was part of Lex, that's when he really kicked into having his anxieties.
Well, the interesting thing about that is his sister was the one who kind of fed him the idea that his PTSD symptoms were from Lex, that Lex was the trigger for this stuff. But then, come to find out in this episode, it's the regret he's had his entire life, the pain from the memory that he blocked out, and the problems it caused with his family, with his sister, because, she grew up thinking that he abandoned her at this point, and, he literally repressed the memory and created a new one.
And it was a beautiful episode, but harsh and hard for Jimmy, So that's like processing.
Yeah, Makad Brooks did a really good job in this episode.
I really like him as James, and I want to use James more because he tries to use James as the evolution of the character, much like we've talked about, where this Lex is the farthest Lex Luthor we've seen in like the journey of the character.
Right.
In other media, I feel like the same with Jimmy.
It's kind of like when everybody called me Jimmy, and then when my teacher in 6th grade asked me, I started going by James.
He's like, it's James, mother.
Right.
He's like, call me James.
No, it's more like that squeaky, early puberty voice.
Call me James. You're like, call me James.
Yeah, right.
I name stuff, man. Crazy. My first name being Jonathan. People think, oh, okay, John. I'm like, no. Don't assume that's what I go by. Do not assume that you can just call me. I do not go by John. Okay.
Right.
I'm not the revelator here. Okay.
And a lot of names have nicknames, and you want to find out what that person's preferred name is. Is it their full name? Is it a nickname? Do they go by John or Jonathan or even Johnny or James or Jim or Jimmy
or Jimothy for those Office fans out there?
I know the name Jimothy. I've been called that, and I'm like, no. And my name's James Robert, and people have called me Jim Bob, and I'm like, shut the before I knock your teeth down your throat.
Oh, that might be the funniest. I don't. That is. Yeah, I mean, you're like, no. This is brought to you by the I Hate My Name and the Nickname podcast.
Right. You'll end up dead by a pencil with either like the Joker or John Wick.
Johnny Wick. Are you gonna go see Volume 3?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, me too. I'm really pumped and excited because my dad wants to go, and my dad used to take me to the movies all the time, and he never wants to go anymore. But he actually said he would like to go. So when he gets back from his little short trip here, I'm going to try to take my dad and go. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'll probably end up going to see it by myself, and then because I have to get the kids in here real soon, probably not this weekend, but next weekend, I have to go take them to see Detective Pikachu.
That's what Solomon and I are going to try to catch, I think, Wednesday. We're going to try to catch that on Wednesday. Because I told him I'd take him last week, but because of getting back in school and trying to finish up and work and everything, we had to buy parts and fix our washer and dryer.
Right.
kind of drain me of money and time.
Yeah. Well, I'm on call this week. This weekend is an off pay week for me. So, I have taken the kids to the movies once, and I got called like literally right when the movie started. Just luckily it wasn't a call that I had to go in for. So I was like, oh, thank God. 'Cause I was going to be like, I have to leave the wife and kids here, go to work and come back and waste the money from my ticket. We went to see Cars 3 at the time. But yeah, I can't do that with just me and the kids. I can't leave the kids there at the theater by themselves. So I have to take them when I'm not on call.
Go to the bathroom. Stay here.
Yeah. Like if I'm going to the bathroom, that's one thing. They're 9 and 10 years old. Sit here. Don't move. Go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. But
man, James and I have not talked in a while, so we're just kind of like catching up too. But this episode was good. I think the main thing I got from this episode, honestly, was I really was not interested in the Dreamer stuff as much because I felt the characters more being forced. And I think in some ways, I'm looking at shows and stories and stuff and just I'm kind of expecting more out of development. And I feel like with Dreamer, it was like shorthand storytelling and just forcing, like, oh, I'm a superhero now and I know my power.
Well,
now I'm on TV and I'm trying to make a amends. Like, this is who I am. And I mean, that's great. Self-empowerment's great. Don't get me wrong. I don't feel like we've earned it, but at the same time, maybe if I sat down and watched all these episodes straight and I didn't have all these interruptions, then maybe I'd be like, oh, I feel this moment being earned.
Yeah. The television part was strong. So the two strong points in this episode was Jimmy dealing with his past, and then Dreamer showing up on TV. Not quite. I mean, the self-empowerment angle of it was really good. It developed the character because of who she is and what she is, but it was really good because it helped to empower aliens and the belief that humans and aliens can peacefully coexist, which was also strengthened in the fact that Lockwood's son is kind of having a change of heart in this episode. He finds out that his best friend is an alien, and he starts to doubt what his dad is doing with everything, calling them roaches, attacking, killing, being Agent Liberty, having his agenda. So, because he reaches out to his friend to tell him that he's there for him if he needs him.
And it's really powerful because.
So, it's a strong moment for the overall for the overall discrimination storyline.
So the last big moment of this episode is earlier in the episode, Lockwood had rounded up aliens and taken a woman's child from her. And the episode,
they took her husband who was nothing but a working alien who did nothing wrong, but they took him anyways. And she's an alien, but they left her.
Which maybe that's why I was confused, because I thought they took her kid and left the mom parted. They took the husband and left the mother. So, anyways, she is enraged and decides, which I would have liked some more on this, but basically at the end of the episode, Lockwood comes home and finds his wife dead and that alien lady running out. So they killed Ben Lockwood's wife, which I actually would have liked to have seen that scene because I feel like that's such a huge jump. Like, you took my husband, but I'm gonna murder your wife. I don't know. Like, we don't know what happened to her husband yet. But man, like,
Yeah,
because
the first time I watched it, I was like, okay, an alien killed his wife. And then the second time around when I watched it, I was like, that's the wife of the alien at the beginning. Like, she's and I noticed it the first time that she was an alien, but they were only taking her husband. So that kind of lends the idea that there's something else going on, not just specifically alien discrimination and alien deportation, imprisonment. You know, it's kind of the first signs that there's probably something else going on when they're taking specific ones and leaving others.
That's deep. That is.
So I kind of thought that when I saw her the first time, like, why are you taking the husband and leaving her? Wouldn't they arrest the whole family if that was the case, if what they're doing at this point?
Yeah. I'm saying that's very interesting, James. Yeah, that's something we'll learn about here as we progress. So,
quite possibly.
All right. Last final thought on this episode.
The big fight scene at the end of the episode was pretty quick. It was a decent shot at fighting the bad guys, trying to have everybody's identity kept secret. Kara doing her thing, like saving the day, acting like the damsel, going back and forth. But man, Jimmy took it serious. He broke Lockwood's arm.
Yeah, he did. Well, Jimmy's dealing with some stuff.
Yeah, he was pretty he was loud. Get out. And I don't know. One day with these powers, I don't think you know your own strength. So it's not like he'd snap his arm and be like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to break your arm. I don't know what I was doing, what I was thinking."
Yeah, that would hurt. So.
Not with the stuff he's doing. I would say that there's no remorse there, even if it was by accident.
So what would you rate this episode?
I give it I would probably give it about a 7.5 as well. Some steps forward with the overall plot. Oh, you know what? We didn't. One thing we didn't discuss real quick was the fact that Lena and Kara discovered some records through, what was it? Ameritech? Yeah, Ameritech company, and used records, followed a bunch of clues to track Lex, and found out that he's in Casnia, and they're going to Casnia.
Okay, I had that in my notes, so I kind of overlooked it here. I'm trying to watch and keep up with everything. Sometimes things meld in your brain.
Right. Well, I got my list of notes here too, and we went off topic a few times this with American Dreamer here. So
I always feel like any of the shows, the last few episodes are really tight, and they really work cohesively.
Yeah.
So you can really see the story connect, because they don't have any more of like the one-offs or like they're really wrapping up plots. So I feel
right.
There's
I feel like Yeah, I feel like maybe some of my ratings for episodes earlier in the season were like higher for single episodes that were really good at the time, and now these episodes they're tight, they're cohesive, and they're wrapping things up and they're good. And if I were to go back and watch them again, like maybe some of those might be a little lower, and these, some of those might be the 7 and 7.5s, and these are the 8.5s. And I know the 9s were 9s. I'll give that to those. Man of Steel was a really strong episode, still one of the best of the season, as well as the 2 episodes with Lex, especially the second one, showing everything he's been doing over the last year. So excellent. Those are definitely still top grade episodes of the season.
Awesome. I would give it about a 7. I like certain things. I like development, but
yeah, not being the Dreamer being the strongest character for you, can easily see why it would knock it down a notch or two.
like I said, maybe like once this hits Netflix, here within like a week or so.
I'll
be able to
about a week from now.
I'll be able to sit down and kind of watch it straight and get a different perspective. Because then you'll be like, oh wow, stupid little stuff like you forget how much time. Like Solomon's been really getting into watching the old Power Rangers with me,
mm-hmm.
and I was watching like the Green Ranger. I was like, oh man, I feel like, and then I was looking like Tommy was like the Green Ranger at the beginning of season 2 for like 5 episodes. And then he's gone for like 2, and then he's back as the White Ranger. And like in my memory, I was like, it felt like there was so much time.
Really? Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't seem like it's that fast in my memory.
Exactly. And that's when, like, once you look at how the episodes, you're like, man, but then you try to think back. Some of them came on weekly. And you're like, I guess. And then as a kid, so like even as an adult, like we're busy, like just putting like the stories taking place quicker, but we have all these breaks, interruptions, or you get back to watching it and you don't think about it and you're like, man, this feels rushed, but maybe if I sit down, I'm watching, like, oh, I can definitely see where this is really building here.
Mm-hmm.
But that's going to do it for us for today here on the Krypton Report. Stay tuned, and we'll be back with another episode shortly. So until then, I am Tyler, and this is my lovely host, Mr. James Cole.
Lovely, thank you.
like to boost your ego. Attention, class. Attention. Will the real Miss Tessmacher please stand up? Please stand up. Nope, nobody. Maybe I'm just sitting here in my basement by myself. Welcome to the Krypton Report. We are going to be talking about Supergirl. Excuse me, it is early for us Kryptonians. Man, woo! We're going to be talking about Supergirl, Season 4, Episode 20, The Real Miss Tessmacher, Stand Up. And I can't do this alone because those episodes suck and nobody downloads and listens to those. So I brought along Mr. James Cole. Welcome, James.
Hey, Tyler.
Man, we're getting through this. We're making it. Life gets in the way, but you know what? Keep pushing forward.
I was suspecting you might actually do an intro like that. That's what I thought of when I saw the name of the episode. I was like, "Oh, really?"
For all those people who are like, "I don't get it." See, back in the late '90s, there was this young white rapper named Eminem who was coming out, and he had this song called "The Real Slim Shady," and in that chorus it said, "Will the real Slim Shady please stand up?" It was in the early 2000s. I don't remember. It'll run forever when you get old. I think it was the 2000s. The late 90s was...
the Slim Shady, no, which one?
I don't think it was like 01 now.
Second album, I believe. Maybe early 2000s.
Yeah, I want to say it's 01, now that I think about it. But you know what?
Yeah.
That's okay because I don't get paid to be smart. So this episode, we're going to get some interesting information. This episode was neat, and it's interesting because we're still developing Eve Tessmacher. You know, technically a character that's not really shown any kind of attention outside Superman the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she was first introduced in season 2, we didn't know what to think of her.
Yeah, everybody just heard Miss Tessmacher, and yeah, it was just a throwback to her character from Superman. Well, yeah, they haven't used Miss Tessmacher since, or she's a callback to the movie character, but then they used Tess Mercer in Smallville. It's kind of a throwback to her as well. She was a villainous character. She worked for Lex, and then she turned and she worked for the good guys over her 3 seasons on the show, 8, 9, and 10.
Mm-hmm. You know, the thing with Tess was she was like that fun amalgam character of like, oh, we'll take a little bit of Tessmacher, a little bit of Lena, and a little bit of Mercy Graves kind of thing, and just make one character. Because you know what? Because
Right.
we can't do a real character. No, we just gotta. Oh, that's too many characters. Let's just make them one person.
Right. She's a compelling character through her time in the show, though.
She is, and I think she got the worst ending. But that's not this podcast, because when she
Say Zach will get there one day in a few years.
yeah, he'll be there. Then people will say, "Oh yeah, I heard that on Krypton Report too." She dies, and nobody notices or says anything. There's no, "Hey, where's Tess?" There's no, "Oh man, we should mourn for Tess." It's just like she died, and nobody knew.
Right.
So Miss Tessmacher, Eve. I never knew her first name until this series. I don't know if it was always Eve or that's what we got. But
yeah, not sure.
This episode opens. We find out Casnia, Lex's base is in Casnia. And when I say we find out, that's where Lena and Kara are. And we get Alex is jogging with Jimmy's sister, who I cannot remember her name.
Kelly, I believe.
Kelly. I thought it was. Like, I had it in my notes, and, just, Lady Olsen wasn't working for me in my notes here. Alex gets a call that she's been chosen for adoption. And this is really awesome, character development, because in some ways, I think Alex took a back seat for a while of just being Kara's big sister support. In some ways, I feel like they stagnated on Alex because this was a big thread last season, and then I felt like it got dropped because, you and I had predicted that maybe Alex would end up having to adopt and inherit Ruby.
Mm-hmm.
With what was going on with Sam, which I think, in some ways, I think that would have been a really good thread. Instead of having her adopt from an adoption agency, but that's where we are. And she gets a call that she has an adoption and a placement ready. And, I'm not 100% how all of it works. I got some family that are doing foster care, and it's kind of similar where they can call you and they place a child, and then they can end up removing that child quickly because they put it somewhere else, or it gets adopted, or the family, or what. And it's a rough situation and a rough system, and it's almost like a no-win for anybody at times. But Alex is now faced with the challenge of what should she do. Is she ready? And like that reality of, you know, you want to do something and you're kind of waiting, but then when it actually happens, you're like, oh, am I really prepared for this?
Right. Yeah, she's having some back and forth on the whole, on if she should or not. It's nice that Kelly goes with her to be her support.
Yep.
Because no, we don't hear much that she's trying to adopt again that I can recall through the rest of the season. I know that she had said that she had put her life on hold for Kara, but I don't feel that there was any real forward motion on that. But then she gets the call and they're like, yeah, this baby's being born. Your baby is being born right now.
I mean, and you know, while we're on Alex, you know, we'll kind of just we'll just kind of write out Alex's story here. Is we get more scenes with her and Kelly talking about if she's prepared and what that is, and you know, Alex tells her about Maggie and her fiance that she lost because she wanted kids and Maggie didn't, and what that means to her. And then she starts like, is my apartment this and my apartment that? And I totally understand the psychology behind it of, you know, starting to make excuses or, oh, I can't do this now because my apartment's not ready. Or I love you. I can't. I love you too, man.
Sorry, I had it on mute and I'm talking to my kids real quick.
No, you're fine. I've accidentally sent Phil messages before where I'm talking to him and Jania, and I'm like, I love you, babe. And I sent it to Phil, and it was supposed to be for Jania. And stuff,
right.
So
I thought I had clicked it just after I said it. Apparently, I said it in mid-sentence.
Makes the morning fun. See, you never know what's going to happen on this podcast.
Right. Totally blew the adoption talk.
But that's the thing. It's about love. You know, it's she's loving this idea of being a mom, and she now is presented with the option of, are you ready to go forward with it? And she's scared. And I mean, she's at the final stroke. Like, there's certain things that in life, and I'm sure you can agree with me on this, you can only be prepared so much. When it comes to getting ready to have kids, there's never that perfect time. There might be a better time or a better situation, but there's nothing that you would describe as the perfect time. And you just got to do it. You got to take a breath, realize that you can do this, and step up and care for your child.
Yeah, not much will prepare you for actually being that person who is responsible for a child every day, forever. You know, it's.
I mean,
yeah. There's a lot of things you can do to prepare for and learn what you have to do to be a parent and take care of a child. But when it comes to actually being that parent 24/7, yeah, nothing really prepares you for that.
You know, one of the best feelings I ever have is when with Solomon and then later with Selah is when I knew that I could take care of my kids by myself. When I got to that point where I didn't need somebody else at the house, or I could do it without relying on Jania. And first was just Solomon, and then it was a little bit more intense when it was with Selah, because, you know, having two of them, but you got it down and you're like, I can do this.
Yeah, that's a good feeling.
So, and then, you know, she's in the zone. She's ready. She's made up all the excuses, and Kelly's talked her out of all of them. And then she gets the second call.
To get those stuff, you need to subscribe to your channel.
Yeah, she gets to be excited, waiting for it to happen, and then she gets a call from the agency that the girls, because I believe it's a 17-year-old who's having a child, and she was putting her up for adoption, but they had the option to keep the child. So, and they said that Alex said that the grandparents had talked to the girl and convinced her to keep the baby.
And it's one of those situations where you're like, you're happy if the mother truly wants the baby. And is good to really take care of the baby. But you're also sad because, that's what Alex desired. She wanted. So.
Yeah. Well.
And it's heartbreaking. I mean,
yeah, it was, for her character wise, it was nice to see that her character was having some growth this season, from having her memory wiped from knowing Kara was Supergirl. So she didn't work directly with Supergirl, and that put distance between her and Kara. It gave her character some room to develop over the season.
And this is where she is. And then we find out, that Alex is devastated and hurt, but she's going to pick herself up and with her new bestie, Kelly. And that is a blooming relationship we see.
And say, was it at the end of this episode where Kelly was talking to her, and then I believe it was Alex who kissed her?
Yeah, we find out that Kelly was engaged in the military, and to her superior officer, and she and her, it was broken off, and she had to deal with that, and she never told James about it, in the situation. And I don't care that that's where they're going, but it just feels forced. And I just, with a lot of these classes I've taken on writing and things and just stuff I've had to study about pacing, I just feel some of the character development is replaced with just shorthand character moments. And that's what I feel like this Kelly and Alex thing is. Because it just kind of pops up like, oh, you're a sad lesbian and I'm a sad lesbian. Let's just be together. And, it's just, I don't know. Once again, it's kind of that thing like I told you before, that when the series hits Netflix, I'm going to sit down and rewatch it all, and maybe then I'll be like, oh, okay, I can see this better now. Because I can see how long Kelly's been there, or not, and we'll kind of get a better feel of the pacing of that thread when I can just kind of watch it straight. So.
Yeah, I mean, she showed up when James was having his issues, or when he was in the hospital, and she's been here ever since. And I mean, the character that Kelly has spent all the time with is Alex,
right? Because she talked about her being motherly and how she's there for the ones that she loves, and she was there for James, and I mean that's true to Alex's character. And I like that this episode has a whole plot a whole thing going on that's about Alex that's not about Kara, to where she's not that background, sister character of I support Kara, yay, all Kara. It actually is Alex getting to do her own thing. So I really like that about this episode. It actually, it's a story for Alex that is Alex's story.
Right. I hope they don't abandon that going into season 5.
Oh, I totally agree. I want Alex to get more that's just her, more story, more plot, that she gets to become more of her own character. So now that the war is raving behind you, are you okay, James? Are you surviving?
Yeah, my son's acting like a little monster playing a game.
Hey, I get that. That's what makes you. It's like the bombing of Kryptonopolis on Smallville. We want to save you. We'll send out the relief troops.
Right.
All right, so let's jump to another character of ours. As of this recording, I encourage everybody out there listening to go online, look up one of my favorite podcasts that talk about it. The guy who hosts it, Joe, is awesome. He's been on our show. Comic Book Central. You can look up comicbookcentral.net. This week's guest is Sam Witwer. And as you know, James and I are both fans of Sam Witwer and his work. And we're about to talk about him as Lockwood. So if you get a chance, go check out that cast, please. You won't be disappointed.
Excellent. I'm gonna have to go listen to that. I've got the John Cryer episode downloaded. I haven't listened to yet.
Yeah, Joe just shared it last night that Sam Witwer is going to be on, and I shared it online. I'm like, yes. So yeah, it always drops new on Saturday, so I'm going to be listening to that as I go to work.
Sweet.
All right, so Lockwood in this episode, his wife was just murdered last episode, and it's kind of one of those things that sucks that you can't hurt the person that you want. So you kill like the innocent person in their life. His wife wasn't exactly innocent. She supported what he did, but Lockwood committed the atrocities against this alien, and she killed Lockwood's wife to get back at him. And we open up on the funeral, and the son is talking, and Ben's there, and then he just gets up and leaves. He leaves his wife's funeral. What do you think about that, man?
That was leaving his wife's funeral while his son is speaking a eulogy. That was pretty messed up. I mean, he's going through a lot too. His wife was murdered, but that kid's his son's mother was murdered. Like, it's pretty selfish on the character, on Lockwood's part. I mean, to abandon your child at his mother's funeral.
Right. Like, that's what I was thinking. Like, even if you are not able to cope or do anything, just your child, like,
yeah, you still need to be strong as a face for your child. You know what I mean? You still need to be strong at that point, but then as soon as you disappear behind closed doors and you can't cope, then that's when you can break down. But your child definitely needs you to be strong in that case.
I kind of thought about, like, of course I thought, like, what would I do? Where would I be? And I thought about the scene, the Thanksgiving scene of the movie Four Brothers. If you're not familiar with Four Brothers, it's a great.
I love that movie.
It's one of my favorite films. It's actually become like my post Thanksgiving film. It just by default, by the late John Singleton. What happens is the brothers come home because their mother was killed, and they start to dig into it, and every brother's sitting at the table eating, and they all look at their mom's chair, and they have like a memory of her, except the oldest brother. He cannot accept his mother's fate right now. He believes something's wrong, something doesn't sit right, and it's not till they solve the murder and make peace that he finally has his flashback memory with his mom. And I kind of think similar with Lockwood, where he's so enraged by his grief that he can't process until he gets his revenge. He's blinded by it.
Mm.
And I understand that, because I think in some ways if something had happened to Jania, I would be like that. But the thing is, my children come first. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even considering talking about Four Brothers and stuff like that, Mark Wahlberg's character was the strong brother who, he waited until he was in his mother's room behind closed doors before he broke down and started crying.
Yes.
So he was still being strong for the family.
Yes, he was. And that's just, I think, one of those things that you have to be as a parent.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty messed up that he abandoned the funeral, but he left there and he went back to the DEO, trying to search for the aliens, search for more aliens, and search for the alien who killed his wife, and to discover everything he can about Lena's work, or more that he can about Lena's work with the DEO.
And this is where he goes from being, Secretary Lockwood to back to being Agent Liberty. And he, he wants the experimental hair now. And we see he ends up injecting himself with it.
Yeah. Well, as he gets the experimental hair now, the Brainy is trying to dissuade him from using it, saying that it will, in all likelihood, kill him.
And he's like, look, man, I've been down this road. You get black eyes, things grow out of you, you transform. I got this.
Yeah. Sam Witwer knows what he's dealing with. Maybe not Ben Lockwood, but...
All I know is if somebody does not edit scenes from Supergirl with Smallville, where he turns into Doomsday, I'll be sad. And so he goes, and like we said, we're just kind of following character threads here. He ejects himself, and he gets superpowers, and he starts to fight. And he's trying to take on Jimmy and Kara. And then John shows up. And he's pretty strong. I made a joke and called him Superwood, and Janine just looks at me like, seriously, Tyler? I'm like, fine. His name's Ben Lockwood. I mean, it made sense, but whatever. Just call him Super Ben, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, he's combating Dreamer and Jimmy, and John shows up. He ain't got nothing on John, though.
No. Jean, the most powerful character that gets sidelined way too often. But it's sad.
Yeah, I think after 5 years of Jean being back to using his abilities, sure, the first year or two, when his abilities had basically been dormant for a decade. He got out of practice or whatever. But I think after 5 years of him using his abilities the way he has, he should be pretty adept with them again and pretty powerful.
I agree.
He erased memories this season without causing damage, and he's getting better, especially with his telepathic powers. But he still doesn't do much fighting when he's a comparable physical character to Superman and Supergirl.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a shame. Because he is a very powerful, strong character. We see Lockwood gets thrown into the tankers. Jimmy says throw him into the tankers because earlier they were doing some tests on Jimmy in the Fortress of Solitude of what he can and can't handle with his newfound powers. So Ben pretty much wraps up by showing up at the funeral home and arguing with George and trying to make amends for leaving during the funeral. And it's a good scene. I find it awkward that Ben here is somebody that hates aliens, but yet stole their powers to give himself superpowers.
Yeah. Yeah, when the powers are from like alien origin as they are, it does seem a little hypocritical that he would do it, but the fact that he's, trying to become superhuman to combat aliens, that's kind of been part of what a lot of the season has been about. Lena's discussion all the way back to the Thanksgiving episode about getting people superpowers that only certain people would be allowed to get superpowers, and so playing God, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And who would be able to decide such a thing. And so it's with Lockwood being the villain character, it's definitely he definitely does not have the ethics and morals to consider the implications of what he's doing.
Exactly. So that wraps up Lock Superwood. Now we're going to jump back to our main focus of the episode, which is Kara and Luna as they go to Lex's base. And as they're exploring Lex's base, they find some interesting things. We do get an awesome reference callback to the DEO desert facility. I don't know if you caught that. It's just a quick line of dialogue.
Yeah, where they're talking about how they got the aliens from the DEO desert facility.
Yep. Which is just a nice reference and continuity of season 1.
Well, it's good they don't act like season 1 never happened, seeing as it happened on a different station.
Right, which, we talked about. There's certain, like Maxwell Lord and Lucy being two things that just kind of fell to the wayside and never mentioned again.
Well, even General Lane, he hasn't been back either.
Yeah.
Right?
So, sad, but just a nice callback. But while they're there searching, they find Eve. And this is where the title of the episode comes into play. That they find Eve. So they run into Eve, but something's off with Eve. You know, James, what did you think? Were you like...
Yeah, I thought she was like a robot or a cyborg or something. I don't know what was going on because she kept like repeating herself, like she got like her audio got stuck on a loop or something.
Right. See, that's right where my head was. I was just kind of like, what is this? Like, what's going on?
But they did explain something about the alien who, back in the fair episode, who could separate himself. That the longer he was separated, like the dumber, the less stable, I suppose, the other versions of him would become. So, which is interesting because it brings up that they were like, Lex and Miss Tessmacher were like extracting alien powers and apparently have found a way to give people alien powers because he gave Eve Tessmacher the power to multiply herself.
Right. And I like the fact that this whole season has kind of been Lex in the background. It's a very Lex Luthor thing to do.
Yeah, the way he's been manipulating and discrediting aliens the entire season.
I mean, it screams Lex Luthor, you know, like that's just, once you say that, then you're like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense. Of course Lex would do this. That's what he does.
Yeah. As you think about like some of the episodes kind of hit or miss, some ideas like, okay, well, what were they thinking? I hope these things kind of come back around. But then when it comes down to Lex was like manipulating the whole thing, the ties kind of come together. All the threads start to come together.
So we get they Kara and Lena, as they're going through the facility trying to unravel Lex's plan and find information that proves what Lex is up to. They have Eve in cuffs. And then they run into more Eves, and this is where the whole joke about will the real Miss Tessmacher please stand up? And, Kara's got to fight a bunch of Eves, and, Lena gets to the plane, and Eve attacks her, and she beats her, and it wasn't the real Eve like we had all hoped. So that was kind of a bummer.
Yeah. Didn't seem like the real Eve was anywhere, any one of them in this episode.
And that was, I think, one of the neatest parts was the real Eve was nowhere to be found. And I like that they're making Miss Tessmacher more of a valuable character and not, she's coming more into her own. And I think we'll see more of that as the last few episodes approach of who and what she really is. And then taking the car and Lena's story is Lena gets a really cool speech when they're getting on the plane where she says, I let her in. She lied to me this whole time. And while Lena's saying this, Car is in the background wanting to tell Lena that she's Supergirl. And it's just a really strong character moment. And then Car decides not to. Like this was her chance this was her chance to take the power and to say, Lena, I'm Supergirl. But she doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's going to be, I think, that's going to play back. And, my guess is that Lena's going to find out. Kara's going to have to tell her this season. Like, I think Lena will, be told they're going to have that kind of fallout, or not fallout, but just kind of discussion about true identities and coming out and having to reconcile themselves to each other before the end of the season, or it'll just come out and that'll be a thread for next. I don't know. I just think we're at a point now where it's time Lena knows.
Yeah, definitely about time that Lena knows. It's been a few years now. Surprised with how smart she is, that she hasn't figured it out yet, especially the things that Kara and Alex have let slip around Lena, and the abilities that Kara has tried to portray in secret while in Lena's presence. Like,
oh yeah,
it's like she seems oblivious because she wants to be oblivious to it.
One thing we kind of skipped was at the beginning, they're having trouble with the plane. It's an automated plane. There's no pilot. And Lena goes, I can fix it. And she goes to try to fly it. And that was on this episode, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, the plane is struck by purple lightning. There's purple lightning flying all the way around. Well, they bring up a fact to mention that lightning isn't purple. That purple lightning is shooting around and it strikes the plane, and like the plane goes dead. So the plane is like crashing, and Lena says she can fix it and she's going to try and fly it. She's going to try and land it.
And then Kara zooms out of Supergirl, helps her land it in a way that doesn't discredit Lena, and then zooms back in as Kara.
And acts like unconscious Christopher Reeve in the alleyway.
Yep, I loved it because I love that she didn't all of a sudden, Supergirl's here. That's not weird and everything.
Yeah.
So that was smart, on her part. But yeah, Lena gets that big moment of. And as soon as a character does that something bad's going to happen, or two characters are about to collide. So, I feel for when it's going to happen.
Yeah, and as they're here in the base, and they set the base to self-destruct, they're trying to find an exit, and Lena goes the wrong way to a dead end, and Kara goes a way that seems that it's going to have an exit, but she comes across the Red Daughter's cell, and there's pictures of Kara and Lena and Alex all over the cell, next to pictures of Supergirl.
Yep. And Kara
that would have been a good time. That'd have been a good time for her to kind of say, hey, this is what's going on. Like, they already know about the Red Daughter. They know about, it would have been a good time for her to kind of give her the, like, this is what's going on. I am her. I am Supergirl. We know about Red Daughter. We know that she's working with Lex. And then show her, he's planning some stuff because he's trying to sneak her in as Supergirl and as and as Kara. This is, they could come up with some sort of plan.
Yeah, and like I said before, when Supergirl is not wearing her uniform, I think it's really easy thing to start wait a minute, that looks like Kara. So it's very practical that Supergirl keep her suit on, and Kara keep her.
Yeah, like the episode where she wears the cloak. She covers up her Supergirl symbol, so she's not this large this larger than life character, but she still just doesn't have the glasses on.
Yeah, so I'm saying it looks like Kara. I mean, at that point, unless they're going with the good old trope that the glasses hypnotize you with Kryptonian power, you're pretty much like, oh, here I am. So, all right, so let's talk about this ending here. Kara has some evidence that she received the Cadmium base that shows what Lex is doing. Okay? She goes to the president, presents him with the evidence.
Yeah, evidence that Lex Luthor and Casnia are going to invade America.
And what do we discover, James?
Well, they kind of throw a hood over Kara and, I'm assuming take her into custody or something. But, just throwing a hood over her randomly. Yeah, the president is working with Lex.
Yes, he is. And, I mean, if you didn't already suspect it, the moment he puts that file in the drawer,
yeah,
he might as well have done the trope of just burning it right in front of her.
Yeah, put it in the drawer. Have you told anybody else about this? Does anybody else know about this evidence?
No, I
Nope.
came straight to you first.
Yeah. All right. Well, lock her up.
My thing is, I mean, come on, people. This is a trope. If you got evidence, you make copies, take pictures of it, use a fax machine, use a scanner. Come on.
Yeah. Multiple copies of evidence. I mean, was it Perry White and Perry in Smallville? Multiple copies, multiple disseminations in the event of this or that. Like early, and she's not a young journalist. She's been a journalist for 3 years now.
Yeah, I mean,
she should have backups of the backups of the backups.
And that's how the episode ends. So, how would you rate this episode?
I would for some of the things, some a little bit of comedic moments there with Kara, the callback, the one moment that we didn't talk about when with Dreamer and Brainy and Jimmy at the fortress was, they were doing some testing and they figured out he was flame proof, but then Dreamer has the hammer, I believe the hammer that Superman uses to create mini suns for the Sun Eater.
Yes.
She has the hammer. Jimmy's, what are you going to do with that? And I am going to hit you with this, and we are going to see what happens. All right, you need to take it back a little bit. Like, she was really excited to hit him with a hammer because he's got superpowers.
I'm sorry.
Good episode.
There's still a line between a flamethrower and a sun-eating making hammer.
Right, a cosmic hammer. Good episode. I would probably rate it an 8. Good character moments, lots of good stuff with Alex and Kelly, Lena and Kara, Eve Tessmacher. It was kind of cool, seeing her have the powers and doing all this stuff, and like none of them still being the real her. So she's still out there doing stuff with Lex. And so, yeah, I give this episode an 8.
I'm with you. I enjoyed it. I liked the character development of Lena. I liked that Alex got her own story that wasn't based on Kara, and we were able to move forward with Alex and herself. So I really look forward to more Alex dealing with so I look forward to the next episode, which we're going to get into. Are you ready, James, to take the next dive into the Red Daughter?
Yes, the penultimate episode of season 4, Red Dawn.
I like it, like there's been some really clever titles this season.
Yeah.
Nobody yelled Wolverines in this though. That would have been kind of funny.
So the episode opens up with Kara being unhooded in custody, basically saying that she's a threat to national security with the evidence that she has. And pretty interesting how a journalist escapes Secret Service guys, if they are in fact Secret Service guys. Who knows at this point, with the president working with Lex and everything.
Yeah. Hold on, James. Someone wants to say hi to you.
Okay.
Hold on.
Hi, James.
Hey, Solo.
Hi.
How you doing, buddy?
Good
Yeah. Good morning.
morning. I was playing with my new Madness T-Rex.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome.
He just walked over and said he wanted to say hi.
Oh, okay. So, actually, I messed up a little bit. Our opening is a memory. So these are two parts of our cold opening. The first part of our cold opening of the episode is a memory of young Alex and young Kara back in 2007 in Midvale.
Which I thought was cool. Which I thought was really cool. Like a nice callback to that episode. Janita had pretty much forgotten about that episode. And everything.
It's such a Smallville-esque episode. It's one of my favorites. So
it is, and it's just a good episode, good time, good seeing more of when Kara and Alex really clicked.
Yeah. But it's a dream, like a memory coming through. Alex wakes up from a dream, and she's still in the it looks like the hotel room with Kelly. So this takes place like immediately after. So it's kind of nice that nothing has, like, all this stuff kind of takes place at the same time. Continuity. Alex and Kelly are still at the hotel room finishing up their stay at this point before they head back home to National City.
Well,
and
like we've talked about before, sometimes on these CW shows, the last 3 episodes will kind of just play one right after another, like one large story kind of evolving instead of being broken up. So yeah, it is really nice.
Well, especially seeing as later in this episode, there's kind of a big time issue when something happens. It leads to a pretty cool effect, which we'll get into when we talk about it, because I know a lot of people will be lost on it. I even heard DC TV Squadcast talking about it, and they recognized the scene from something, but certainly couldn't figure out where it came from.
Yeah, just go ahead and talk about it.
Okay, well, the issue at the time. So in this episode, Kara, and in this cold opening, she comes face to face with the Red Daughter and Kryptonite, which they have the Kryptonite on a chain, like Superman 1, like Superman the movie. So that's pretty interesting. But she comes face to face with Red Daughter. So in this episode, she ends up fighting Red Daughter, which is pretty cool how they use the spacesuit kind of a thing to separate them. So that way it doesn't seem like they have to do double shooting of Melissa in both costumes doing all the different stuff.
Yep, it's a cheap way to save money, time. And,
it is.
As the audience, we know exactly who's who.
Yeah. So during the fight, Supergirl says that, you can't beat me. This fight's going nowhere. We have the same powers. And Red Daughter says that she has evolved, and Purple Lightning. We get Purple Lightning. So we find that she's the one who actually took down Lena's plane in the last episode. But she hits Supergirl and sends her flying into the sky, and then she shoots her with like a lightning blast. There's kind of like an explosion, and it goes from literally like daylight to nighttime in a single instance. But she goes crashing down into the woods. They're fighting, and Red Daughter is beating Supergirl. Go turn that down.
And we're friends.
Turned up the TV in the bedroom like a little madman.
Kids.
So if you heard that in the background, it's TV from the other room. Knock these kids out. But Kara is getting beat down by the Red Daughter, and like these lightning blast hits from her fist, and she basically like kills Kara. The reason she leaves is with her super hearing, she hears her heart stop. So then the Red Daughter leaves, and Alex comes over. You can't die. There's no sunlight. She can't heal. And then she says that there's sunlight in everything. There's sunlight in the grass, in the plants around. And they use an effect where like the sunlight is kind of like streaming across the ground out of the plants and everything into Kara, where she's collecting the solar energy from the plants around her. Well, that effect the effect is new, but the that ability or something comes from The Dark Knight Returns, when Superman is hit by a nuclear blast and he crashes back to Earth, and then he starts to drain all of the solar radiation from the plants all around him, and all of the plants start dying. You can see it in the book, and you can see it in the animated movie as well.
Jimmy?
It's one of those parts where with that thing, I agree. Like, it's like, wow, where did she get this? She's never fully explained. In this episode, we never get like, is she a complete copy? Is she this? 'Cause, she does seem young and naive, in her mind.
And she is weak to kryptonite. She has pain when she's with Kara in the room.
But we don't know what other stuff Lex May had tested on her. Like if she was more susceptible to certain things, and that's where the lightning, she tapped into the dark side and did, force lightning. I don't know.
Yeah, it may have been something with Lex's, not Lex just giving people powers, but trying to enhance the Red Daughter's powers to be able to take out Supergirl.
And I feel like, you and I had theorized that, was she going to be like Supergirl Red and our Supergirl Blue? And that was something to pull together. That never came to fruition in this episode. So it's one of those things that I'll go with, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I feel like you're kind of shortening me a little bit here, because there should have been a little something more to this.
Absolutely. Well, some of the, we've discussed throughout the season how some of this kind of felt filler here or there. They stretched out so much of the Children of Liberty and this government stuff. Like, they could have condensed some of that down. We kind of got it, but they kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. This event after this event after this event. It's all, all of the same stuff. We all know where it's going. It's the intolerance of aliens. The eventual stealing of their rights, and just constantly moving forward with that plot line. And then we see that it ties into Lex Luthor and stuff. I think they could have given more Red Daughter focus, developed her story more as more of a copy of Supergirl throughout the season, maybe with another episode, because she only got one real episode. Otherwise, the entire season she was only shown here and there, but she only got one real episode all the way up until this point, where she was a focus, and then after that she was only in it still a few scenes here and there until this episode.
Right.
So for her being the cliffhanger ending of last season, they really did not give her any focus this season.
No, they didn't. I almost would have preferred her not showing up this season. And basically,
they really hammered home the political, the political commentary this season, and it was heavy-handed, I think. In the overall grand scheme of the majority of the season here at the penultimate episode of the season.
I would have preferred, Red Daughter does the attack on the president. Okay. And Lex betrays her or whatever. She never confronts Supergirl. It's kind of in the background. And then she's kind of the outlying threat that presents itself for next season. Where she could make her appearance or something like that. I feel like she is a character that I think could have gotten a lot more, or she comes out and it's kind of mysterious, Casnia has their own Supergirl,
right? Right. I mean, they relegated her to a plot device to make Lex the grand master of evil this season. She became a plot device instead of being a threat.
And
or even something to if it were to be like Supergirl Blue and Supergirl Red, she could have still been a threat and evil and then, come around, but she just became a plot device for a single episode of the show.
Yeah, I mean, they could have made her she could have joined the Elite or something, and we could have had something unique there. I don't know. You and I could speculate all day. It's just, I feel like I said about the Elite, I feel like it got shorthanded. I feel like Red Daughter got shorthanded with this.
Yeah, I mean, because with the Elite, I mean, Menagerie was pretty good. Hat was really good. With the fifth dimensional hat, they used one of the Morai instead of I forget the other guy with the electric powers. But then Black Manchester Black, he was shortchanged this season. He was a good character. He was really good, but he certainly could have been more.
He was great up until his last episode.
Yeah. And then, so I think I think it's just more of the heavy-handed approach they used for all the political stuff. All this other stuff that could have been really good just kind of fell by the wayside and became plot devices to further the political agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I don't think that was particularly the right way to go as of the majority of the season. And they could have upped the entertainment value a little bit and less of the commentary.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I watch these shows. I don't mind when there's backgrounds that kind of connect. and commentate, but I don't watch the shows to get a take on the world that I live in as much. Like right now, that's everywhere, and it's so heavy-handed. It's escapism.
Yeah, that's seriously what this season was a heavy-handed commentary on the world as it is right now.
In this episode, also we get one of the things I think was the most interesting was Brainy gets rebooted, and in probably the best scene of this actor's Brainiac career. He processes like the emotions. He talks about being connected to all of his ancestors, and he goes through a bunch of changes, and basically he starts screaming about who his ancestors were as collectors and destroyers, and what it is, and we see him go crazy, and basically it shuts down, for lack of a better term, the human part of his brain, and we get the cold, calculating Brainiac.
Yeah. It kind of seems, we get the cold, calculating Brainiac, and he kind of just does what's necessary. Like, he leaves Dreamer locked up, but he's like, because she will do this, and it will, it's something it's a setup for the future, as he puts it. And then John is like, we're not going to leave her here alone. And he's like, we're not. And then he puts John down.
Yeah. And I loved it because he's like, remember, you chose this. This was your plan to get caught.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was interesting. It wasn't like, okay, this is the plan. I'm going to catch you. We're going to lock you up and you can go with her. You know what I mean? It's like he hits him with all these pressure points and puts him down and takes him into custody. So it's definitely a lot more cold than Brainy's been all season, trying to be emotional and learn human ways.
I love when they make the comment about doing Star Wars, about Chewbacca. I think that was cool.
Yeah. What do they call it? The Wookiee capture?
Yeah. My joke was to myself, I was like, they're going to do Get Help from Thor Ragnarok. I am not doing Get Help. Get help. Come on, can I get help? My brother.
Yeah.
Let's see. This episode, we didn't get a lot of Jimmy.
No, he's having some adverse reactions to the Harrenel, though. It's causing him problems, and it's causing Lockwood problems. Lockwood losing hair.
Lockwood's becoming Doomsday, but Lockwood's becoming Lockwood. But no, it makes sense for Lockwood and for Jimmy to both be having problems. Jimmy a little less, just because of, they went through experiments and trials, and Lockwood just took a very raw dose.
Yeah. They just have to, they have to kind of give it a reason for them to develop the extractor to remove the Harrenel from Jimmy, because it's causing him problems, and get rid of his superpowers, and remove the Harrenel from Lockwood, because that kind of guy does not need superpowers.
No, but it would be cool.
The villain doesn't need superpowers. Oh, she calls it a Wookiee gambit. That's what she calls it.
I think Lockwood getting powers would be, once again, we'll see where this goes, coming on the last episode, but the idea of Lockwood with powers, like,
we have the season
you can move forward with. It's kind of interesting, just because now it's like, in one respect, he was, like I said, he hated aliens, but now he has been given the power of the aliens. So I don't know. It's an interesting kind of dichotomy. Like, you become what you hate, and that's what he had to do to stop it.
Right.
And,
well, he kind of on his own figures out, that he just, for whatever reason, he just injects himself with more Harinel, and it kind of abates the symptoms that he's having.
I mean, it's kind of
whereas,
like a drug addict coming down, or even caffeine. Let's talk about caffeine. Let's not get too dark here. It starts to fade. You take more to get yourself back up, and if you just keep yourself up, you don't have to worry about kind of crashing down. And that's kind of what I alluded to there.
Yeah.
He's just keeping himself up. So.
Right. Yeah. On his perspective, it's definitely like that. Whereas with Jimmy, Lillian just figures out with her research that she's doing, based on Lena's research, that it's that some more Harinel would abate his symptoms, because she Lena bought the prison just to get Lillian out for the weekend or whatever, to help her out, and she attaches a baby truth seeker to her arm, so she can't lie. So that's the reason she goes with.
I like this episode. All in all, I feel like we talked about that the Red Daughter got cheated, compared to the second episode where Lex. We saw what Lex had been up to, and we got a lot about what he was doing with her. So I feel like she got cheated, and that's where I really feel sad for this.
Yeah. Well, so Kara knows that the Red Daughter's around, and she actually does a lot of like tracking of the Red Daughter. She finds an apartment that she lives in. It looks like Kara's apartment to a degree. She finds her journal, and she goes through it. She discovers Mikhail, the young boy that the Red Daughter believes is dead, that American missiles blew him up. And then she's trying to keep her distance from Alex at this point, and we know that Alex is kind of like, Alex keeps having these reoccurring, these reemerging memories of Kara, basically being Supergirl, of Kara having powers, and so she's like tailing Kara as she follows her. She gets to the apartment as well, and she gets a call that their mother Eliza is in trouble, and Supergirl goes, and Red Daughter is there dressed as Kara, glasses and everything. She doesn't do anything to their mother, but she pushes her away, and that's when the fight begins.
Mortal Kombat.
So she seems Red Daughter seems a little, at parts in this episode, she seems a little confused about who she is and what she wants. Like you said, kind of naive, kind of younger. But then, like, when the fighting starts and when it comes to Lex, like, she is like, she's almost wholeheartedly like believing in Lex, she, like Kara tells her, if you even look him up, if you do your research on Lex, you'll find that he fights for himself, that he's a criminal and he doesn't care about you and all this other stuff. So, like, she is definitely naive with, I don't know, maybe it's just that her only memory was Alex, and Lex kind of went along with that. So that's her first connection to her only memory. Yeah. That it kind of clouds what she thinks, but yeah, definitely naive when it comes to that.
But what would you rate this episode then?
Lots of pulls.
from different sources. We got, Superman, the movie, we got Dark Knight Returns, the Brainy moment, the Star Wars moment. So I give this episode's another 8.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be that person who just always says, yeah. But, yeah, I agree with you. I liked it. It had a lot of great moments, a lot of great character. I just feel like the Red Daughter is getting the short end of the stick. But
oh, you know what? Very important. At the end of the very end of the episode, the president is thanking Lex Luthor that Kasnia is attacking the United States and Supergirl is with them, which we know it's the Red Daughter, and he takes down the Red Daughter and destroys some Kasnia, I'm assuming warships, Warfleet, something like that, that are attacking America. And so now the president is publicly announcing and thanking Lex Luthor for his service to the country.
Yep. I mean, and I know that Lex is completely, back in the next episode because there's some more commentary things I want to say about Lex, but we'll hold off until we get really a Lex, full episode. And in our next episode, hopefully there'll be a voice back on this cast that you haven't heard for a while. So that'll be exciting. We'll be joining James and I. So that was the Red Daughter. And until next time, just remember.
Look up in the sky.
Look up in the sky.
Look up in the sky.
You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Krypton Report. You can also email us at kryptonreportpod@gmail.com. If you get a chance to go over to iTunes, please leave us a review to help us get better.
If you're an Amazon shopper, just remember you can go to southgatemediagroup.com. There's a portal, log into Amazon, and you'll shop into your account just regular, but it also helps keep all the podcasts on and helps keep Southgate running. Remember, look up in the sky.